And what was so funny, so I still remember, I don't remember when I asked you about it, but maybe it was after a read that we had done over Zoom. And I think there was a read, and I, because Tyner and I were like the last people to leave that Zoom room. And I go, oh, hey, I got a question for you, man. And he's like, yeah. I go, do you have anyone like cast for like the butt guy? And if not, can it be me? And he's like, I mean, I was going to do a director cameo with it, but I mean, if you want to, it's all yours, bud. And I was like, yes. So, and then, when we were at the shoot, it was me, Tyner, and Finn. And I was like, oh, I think we were about to do, I was like, oh, about that butt scene. Um, wouldn't, I was like, wouldn't a dick just be that much funnier and more, it's more accurate, you know? And he's like, I remember Finn was so shocked and he was like, Proton, you show your dick for this movie? And I was like, oh, Finn, you don't know me at all, man. So I would absolutely do that.
So, you having fun yet?
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Late Game Podcast. I am co-creator, actor, producer Jeffrey M. Zucker, along with my co-creator, the writer and director of the Late Game, Jeff Tyner.
Hello, my wee boy.
Howdy, partner. Excited to dig in this week. Start off just on the beer league side as usual. Before we dig into the Bear Seals, on Sunday, I met up with a former beer league captain to go to return my jerseys and stuff, and just catch up a little bit. Grabbed a beer, and I was wearing my prototype Polly's hat that I don't have on at the moment. And someone that worked at the bar like very quickly came by the table and was like, "Love your hat," and then they were gone. Someone that worked there, they were like mid-working, and I was like, did he recognize it from the movie, or like did he just think it was cool because it's purple? And I couldn't, I didn't know who it was because it was so quick. So I guess I'll just never know.
It's exciting. It's
a
good looking hat.
I'd like to think it is a good looking hat, and I'd like to think that he's a late game fan, but like maybe just like the hat, which is fine too. And this actually reminded me I have a separate hat story. When I was leaving the terrible Avs game last week after the Nichushkin thing where they lost, a guy, he was my friend Bob that was with me, took off his jersey, handed it back to me. I'd lent him a Rantanen jersey to wear, and this guy was like, "Oh, it's so nice of you to lend your jersey to a friend." And like, I think the guy was pretty drunk. And then he was like, "Is that a Vikings hat?" Because I had the same hat on. And as he asked that, someone on a scooter hit him.
What?
Ran into him. Fortunately, they weren't going very fast yet. But I was like in the process of trying to tell him it was from my hockey movie, The Late Game. But like he got hit by a scooter. And I was like,
it becomes not as important.
Yeah, I was just like, "Are you all right, man?" He's like, "Yeah," and I took off.
Almost made the sale.
Yes, so close one there. And yeah, I mean, in terms of making sales, like, I've been to Avs games, other places, and like I come generally with my cards, but I really struggle to give them out and to just talk to strangers randomly. And I don't know if it's like a judgment thing or, it's definitely an anxiety thing. But yeah, every time I go to a hockey game, I'm sad when I don't give any out, or if I only give out one or two. Because I know if I really tried, I could just talk to random people and it'd be okay if it went badly at some point. And then we were at the farmer's market on Sunday. There's definitely always lots of like Avs gear and stuff walking around. And I had cards with me, but I didn't give them out, and I felt really sad. So I ended up walking back there by myself, and with the plan to give out, a bunch. And then I think I gave out like 4 or 5 before I got too uncomfortable.
I'm always way too anxious to do it. Usually when we're in this mode, I'm a little blazed, and that makes me a little more introverted. So I don't do that, but I always respect you and Tyler's approach. You guys are good at it. I'll say this. I don't know if they're still supposed to be secret, but we have some hockey cards coming out once we get the prints figured out. And I think that'll make it a lot easier. Those are cool, man. Like, I think people will be excited to see them, especially something like a farmer's market where you can tell, You got Avs gear around. I think that makes it a little more approachable too. Same as a hockey game.
Yep. Yeah, my last card that I did give out that day went to a guy in a Kraken hat. So I was like, oh, that's an easy in. But yeah, agreed. Excited to
Yep.
get those player cards out there. Um, we'll share those with the audience as soon as we can. And yeah, I mean, on the Bear Seals front, we had a game last night.
Yeah, a fun one. The rare we led the whole game. That's very rarely the case.
It is. I mean, we tried our best to cough up the lead. I mean, what was our max? Like, were we up 4-1 at one point?
3-0, and then it was 3-2, and then 4-2, and then I think they made it 4-3.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it was. I'm glad we were able to hang on. It was a fun game. I mean, we lost some steam, I think, as we went along. Um, the other team, it was a close score, but they weren't that good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we slowed down and played in our own end a little too much. Kyle kept it out. He played great. They had a few guys who were pretty solid, but like, yeah, it was a classic example of, I feel like we talk a lot about, oh, this game was fun. It didn't get chippy. It was a good time the whole. This was like the perfect example of, this team was kind of douchey. They were physical. They were chippy, but it's like a perfect example of like nothing crossed the line. Like they were annoying, but not. They didn't whine and bitch and stuff, which is always usually what comes along with that kind of stuff too. So all in all, it was a fun game. A little chippier than I would have preferred, but I'm glad we still won.
Yeah, agreed. They were. I mean, the refs really held it under control. I thought pretty well, better than usual. Like they called some stuff that maybe was light, but it's like better than getting everybody pissed off.
Agreed. Set the tone early. I'm always for just call some penalties, man. Because the second a team gets away with a slew foot or a body check, they think they can just keep doing it, and so I'm all for keeping that shit in check.
I don't know if you recall the moment we got a too many men penalty, but when I was going to the bench after, and the ref was like, I was yelling at him, 13, get back on the bench, but he just must have wanted a penalty. Like it was Bodie.
That's funny. He served a couple of team penalties, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, that particular ref who seemed to be on the bench side of the ice all night, he seemed nice. He was pretty funny, and it like definitely had me like back on that conversation we were talking about where like the ref is just part of beer league. Like you didn't write a ref in to be different. It's just from other hockey movies that haven't done that. It's just like the reality.
Yeah, the ref is an afterthought the higher the competition level goes, but once you're slumming it with us, they're just part of the action.
Yeah, this guy, he had a good character to him. Like I know there were people bitching when that goalie stopped the puck behind the goal line and he blew it for icing. He's like, it's icing when it crosses the line. Like that's not a rule, but good try, guys. And I was just like, yeah, he probably hears this shit all the time.
Yeah, he was quick with that response. So yeah. And we didn't bitch after it. We're just like, oh, okay, good to know.
Yeah, like yeah, that makes sense. If he'd played it in front of the goal line, then would have had something. But yeah, I mean, I thought we started off pretty strong. I was having some fun. We had some good shifts together.
A lot of scoring chances for you.
Yeah, I had a few chances, and I think my issues amounted to a lack of patience. It's something I've worked on a lot over the years, is just like trying to be more patient when I get the puck. And usually I'm just like, oh, I don't want to screw up. I got to get rid of this. But I had a little more time on those, and missed the net a couple times. Some games I'm better than others at taking those moments and try to be intentional about it. But regardless, it was a fun game, and it's enjoying playing with those guys.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of what contributed to that was it was an early game. We ran into traffic, so I think the fact that we didn't have a pregame smoke probably contributed to that a little bit. And that was a fun game. I tried to copy your boy Sid on the game-winning goal, a little one-handed backhander, not quite top cheese, but
that was hot.
Still felt good because my ribs were getting slashed to pieces, and then that guy crumpled up into the boards afterwards, so it felt pretty good.
Yeah, I was coming in behind you, and I saw you kind of like backhand it toward the net, and it just like seemed to like bounce in off of his inner leg, right?
Something like that. Yeah, I was just throwing it because I wanted to actually get a real shot on, but like I said, this guy was just all over me. It was really getting annoying. And then, yeah, he ate shit pretty hard. And in a rare move by me, I had to talk a little shit on my way going past him. I've been trying to keep it cool. And now that the movie's out, we have a product. I don't want everyone to think, oh, the director of the late game's a piece of shit. So I've been trying to keep it a little cooler lately, but Yeah, I had to take a little bite at him.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And that was your second goal of the game. The first one was a tip, right?
Oh yeah, real smooth. I have a horrible track record with just like tips and deflections. Feel like I'm ruining the defenseman shot, like because it seems to work out. So I've gotten a couple lately that have reinvigorated my tenacity on that front. So it was I want to say it was Corey might have flubbed the shot a little bit, but it just perfectly right to my stick. It felt smooth.
Yeah, nice. Nothing like scoring a good deflection shot. It was also good to get back on the ice last Friday. I hadn't been out to a Friday skate in a while. We were a little short on skaters, but it was fun.
Good for the workout, if nothing else, when they're short. But yeah, hopefully up at Ice Ranch we can get a few more guys this week.
Yep. We've got our boy Devin gonna try getting back in net after recovering from an injury. So excited to see how that goes. Yeah, so that was the last regular season game of the spring season for the Bear Seals. So on Monday we will start the playoffs. I believe we're tied. We're considered third place, but we have the same number of points as the people above us. Our goal differential is not as good. I looked at the Big Bear bracket today, and it just makes no sense. It's so strange. Like, it's not hard to make a bracket that makes sense. It seems hard to make one that makes zero sense, but they somehow do it.
Yeah, it's impressive. Between Big Bear, I can't remember. It's been a while since I've played a league at Big Bear, so I know it's been silly in the past on my Dusty Buckets team, but I just went through the stupidest rigmarole with South Sub, with the losers bracket and all this stuff. So I'm just whenever they tell me to show up and play, I'll just play. I'm not going to pretend to. I have such a bad time even keeping track of teams, honestly. So just give me the game time and we'll play.
Yeah, no, understood. And I have a really hard time remembering like the teams we play against unless something really serious happens too. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. Excited to get into the playoffs with these guys. And since the bracket makes no sense, we'll just win every game.
Yeah, it seems to be the simplest method, I believe, as well.
So yeah, excited for that. And on the watching front, what have you been watching of the last week?
Oh man, I've been getting some work done here. Excuse me with that. So Megan and I keep hyping up World War II stuff. So just finished Masters of the Air, the Apple Plus series. I view Band of Brothers as like the pinnacle in the Pacific too, but the Band of Brothers was always a really special thing because when that came out, my granddad was still alive, and I don't want people to think I'm making stuff up. He was in the 509th Parachute Infantry Regiment. That was part of the Anzio invasion. Wounded, presumed dead, was found by a patrol. Went back to the States. He was bashed up pretty bad with some artillery, made his way back to Europe, and then during all that time, the 509th kind of got disbanded because of heavy losses in the Battle of the Bulge. So he got absorbed into the 506 Parachute Infantry Regiment, Easy Company being the Band of Brothers of the focus of that. So not only did I get to watch each of those episodes with him, he is there in the last two episodes, including when they liberate Dachau concentration camp. It was wild to watch that with him. It took a lot out of him. Kind of going, he said it looked exactly the way it looked. It was so to go from that to Masters of the Air. There's still, I like to think of where my granddad is when these episodes are taking place. So, and I know the least about the Bomber Squad. So it was not only just really informative and really well done, the performances were just phenomenal. Like I didn't see that Elvis movie, but like I'm familiar with who Austin Butler is, and he is so good. I wish I knew Bucky's last name or actor's name in that, but he was great too. So that was a big one, and Apple TV Plus also had a documentary that followed it called The Bloody 100th, which was like just a documentary on the real guys. So that was a real fun one to get through. Fun might not be the right word, but just it meant a lot to me to watch it, and it was really well done.
No, you have an awesome perspective on that stuff. It's really cool, and to think that you got to watch Band of Brothers with someone that was on site that like could tell you if it looked good and stuff like that. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he said they got it right. Like that was kind of it's funny how my mom would be like, she lived growing up with him when all those wounds were fresh, so my granddad did not talk about it when she was growing up. And she was only surprised that he talked about it with me and my brothers too, but I was always hounding him with questions. So then to sit with him every week, this was, I want to say, I don't know. I think it started like right before 9/11. All I know is 9/11 happened in the run of those 10 episodes. So like kind of added that extra, significance to it. But just that's something I'll cherish, for the rest of my life, is being able to be there with them. And so that's, I think, one reason why I just, I cling to all this World War II content. I also finally got around to watching, it's a World War I documentary, but I finally got to it. Peter Jackson did. It's They Shall Never Grow Old, which was it's not like a normal documentary. It's entirely remastered film footage from the times and audio interviews from veterans. That's, who knows how old these audio files are. They could have been 60, 70 years old, and that's just how it was strung together. It was edited really, really well. And that was a tougher watch with subject matter, but still really well done. And then on a lighter note, me and Megan went to see The Strangers Chapter 1 in theaters, which was a little pretty underwhelming. The first Strangers is incredible, and it was shot in rural South Carolina. So I remember seeing that in theaters, and it was great. This was boring. And then it shows who directed it at the end. It was Rennie Harlan, which not who I would have guessed to do a kind of small budget horror movie like that, but weird marketing for that too. You think Chapter 1 makes it think like it's going to be a prequel to the movie from 15 years ago, but apparently it's 3 movies and this is the first of those 3. So that was strange. So not the best movie I've seen, but we still did that, and then finished Barry season 1, and we've jumped into season 2, and that's just, man, it's so well done. But yeah, I know that was kind of a mouthful.
No, our editor Nick and his wife are watching Barry right now too, so he was glad we didn't give any spoilers last episode, but is pumped.
Yeah, when he said that, my first thought was, oh no, did we spoil something? Like I just kind of skimmed through it real quick, and I was glad that we didn't, because I think it was when you were talking about Baby Reindeer. You said like one thing where you were worried it was a spoiler, and my mind made it think it was Barry. So I'm glad that we didn't.
Agreed. And yeah, I started Shogun. I'm only 2 episodes in, I think 2 or 3. Really good so far. Like has, kind of Game of Thrones vibes, but it's like real world historical Japan. So super, super interesting so far. Excited to dig in. I know people have loved it. I saw that it got renewed. That, pushed me to jump in when I had a few minutes. And so I'll definitely report back on that one. And then the other thing that Jess and I started is Unlocked on Netflix. It's basically it's reality about a prison experiment, basically, where a unit that was 23-1, meaning those incarcerated are staying in their cells for 23 hours a day, which in my opinion is cruel and unusual punishment. Attempting to basically leave their doors unlocked, let the unit run itself. Like deputies are outside of the unit, just bringing the stuff they need. And, I think, I don't know, we're probably 3 or 4 episodes in. It's super interesting. Like as someone in criminal justice reform, that wants to help change our criminal justice system and make jails and prisons a place for true rehabilitation over what they are now, which is kind of like cattle herding only for people to come back. We have such terrible recidivism rates in this country. So from that perspective, I'm glad to see experiments happening. I know there's been a lot of controversy around this one, but I didn't really want to read about it until after I've watched. So I'm going to reserve my judgment as a criminal justice reform advocate until I finished it. So far, I think there's pros and cons on that side, but at the very least, it's good to be trying something more humane.
Definitely. And then just back to Shogun, I've heard good things, but I've also heard the most common thing I've heard about it is that you really have to be locked in. It's not like something you can have your phone out for, partly because of the subtitles. I'd say probably mostly because of the subtitles, but just also it's just, a lot going on. So you really need to reserve your attention span for it.
Yeah, I do definitely, and that's how I felt about Game of Thrones too, which didn't, wasn't as much with the subtitles. Like a lot of this is in Japanese, which is a big part of it, but there's also just like a lot of moving parts. So definitely seems like one of those shows that
That's an FX
maybe
show, right?
yeah, it's like FX on Hulu or whatever.
Yeah.
And it seems like one of those shows that may require a rewatch like as it goes on, just to like get filled in again. And even having watched 2 episodes so far, like I don't have the time to, but part of me wants to go back and rewatch the two just to like understand who everybody is again and all that. But yeah, I mean, I've been really captivated by the first couple, and if I'd had the time, I probably would have binged through it. So hopefully some more this week. And yeah, I mean, I think it's cool to see where some of the new stuff and new shows are going. Um, and then this week we have on, I'll say one of our favorites. I know everybody's one of our favorites, but we have on, kind of if Rizzo was the heart and soul of the set, I almost feel like Proton's character is kind of heart and soul of the movie itself. And so, yeah, this week we interviewed our great friend Matthew Starling, also known as Proton, and excited to share that conversation with this group. I mean, we had a little bit of technical hiccups during it, but I don't think that will really come through too much. And I think it was a good conversation.
Yeah, it bummed me out a little bit just because, like, I just go back so far with Proton. He means the world to me. And I even get a little emotional in there, just kind of recounting some times in my life. I met him at the right time, man. I think so much of his real essence comes off in the movie of just like, I mean, he's called Proton because he's just got so much positivity coming through him. And I met him at a time where I talk about it later of just like, right after devastating the injury that really hit me hard. And it would have been so easy for me to turn into a cynical, just negative Nancy, man. And I don't know, he just showed me another way. So it makes me a little upset that that's when technical issues hit us, because I think it would have been an all timer, but I think it shows to his chemistry that, like, even despite the technical hiccups, it's still such a strong episode.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of future opportunities to have Proton in late game content. Excited for that future, but in the meantime, great to share this talk with him and learn more about his late game experience and about his art and much more. So we'll leave you guys with that.
So do I take my pants off now, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, actually, that's the next recording.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You have pants on right now? I didn't know we were supposed to wear pants.
It's great to see your face.
Yeah, man. It's good to be here.
Hey, remember when we made a movie and we all showed up the whole time? How cool was that?
I mean, the whole time? Just kidding. You had some shit going on.
Hey, all I'm saying is watch the final product and no one. You know what's funny is I always get the question. I say always, like a million people are talking to me, but I've frequently gotten the question that's like, "You're not in the movie though, right?" Speaking to me, and I'm like, "Yeah, I pop up." He's like, "Oh yeah, because you're the goalie." That's what I thought, and I'm like, "No, that's Sean Shapiro. We're just guys with red beards." But when I mention I body double you, no one knows it. No one.
Yeah, well, there's a couple times where I watching the finished product, I was like, I don't remember shooting that, and then because I didn't, it was you.
I love my favorite one is the well dang babe with Riley, because that's a reverse shot, so it's me from behind, you from the front, and we do that like 3 or 4 times real quick, and that's my favorite of the bunch for sure.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that one of yours as well.
It was a good one. My favorite is the whenever there's the goal celebration and you come skate in and you're like on one foot. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't do that, but yeah, that's Tyner.
That's me. That was I went my best to really be method. I tell you, it's crazy. It worked out that me and you had the same kind of skates, which is just like, what are the odds? And I tried to tuck my tongue, put my shin pads over my tongues, and that first day I paid the price. It was excruciating. And then I said, "Fuck continuity. I won't. I just can't do it anymore." And so that every now and then I can pick if I can really pick it out. I'm just looking at skates. So there's a few more. I need to have a final tally of how much I'm out there.
Yeah, whenever you play defense and you got to block shots, that's why I go over the tongue because my feet hurt.
I just can't buy new shin pads. Mine are. I had the realization like last summer that my shin pads are like 8 months older than one of my beer league teammates. um, it's about time I got a new pair.
Is your kneecap all busted?
Yeah,
Mine
they're
are.
both cracked. They're both cracked, and
Yeah,
anytime I take a shot, I have bruises. Like I need to I need to grow up here. Like I grew up when it came to having a cage and some kind of chest protection, but the final frontier are the shin pads.
yeah. Well, it's not like you're a big shot blocker anyway.
Not willingly, but boy, do I find myself well because I'm not super skilled. I'm a big get in the shooting lane, get in the front of the net kind of guy, and I tend to take most of them friendly fire, just trying to get a stick on something. I so rarely, for as much as I'm trying to tip the puck on net, it rarely adds something positive to the play.
Yeah, I know playing is like I'll shoot from the point, and I have so many forwards that tip my shots 6 feet wide, and I'm like, that was going in if you didn't touch it.
I take that shit a lot. I'm just like, well, I had a deflection goal in me and Zucker's last game though, so so I'll go 0 for the next 1,000 attempts to get my average back.
Yeah, you got to keep it up.
It was perfectly on purpose, though.
I was just gonna say I didn't want to derail your proper introduction, but um, I love my one of my favorite parts about the movie was these different circles of mine combining. And you two have known who each other is, I feel like, for a long time, but it really took the movie for you guys to really know each other. And I still remember, I remember the story that stuck with Proton so much is from the Pineapple Express when me and you saw it, and it makes him so happy because it's like knowing you. I love to know that you can't drop certain things, and it's like when James Franco and Seth Rogen get mad at each other, and he throws the change at him. There's this big emotional beat happening, but you're just sitting there next to me, going, "Pick up the money!" You're like, "Come on, that's gonna blow away," And that, for some reason, that really stuck with Proton. Like that's one of his favorite things in the world.
No, I mean, I appreciate that. I hope it's not. It doesn't show my money grubbingness. I hope it's more that my practicality. Like, guys, you can have your fight, but pick up the money first. It's gonna blow away.
That was my thing. Is like it's definitely the practicality of like it's windy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the thing is too, what's so funny is like because I didn't know you, I just knew you through stories, or like I knew who you were, but I didn't know you in person or anything like that. So anytime that Tyner would mention your name, of course, that's the first story that would resonate with me, and so then I would always Tyner be like, "Oh yeah, I was over at Zucker's," and I'm like, "Pick up the money," like so.
I mean, I love that. I don't even remember it, but I believe it.
Yeah, it was, and I don't know why that stuck with me so hard, but it's still funny to me. I don't know.
Well, I've long known you as a mythical, wonderful artist, and that I've seen and heard things about. But it was great to actually get a lot of time together working on the movie.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was a good time. It was nice to like because like I've known everyone, but then to like spend 2 full weeks with everyone, like I think it just bonded us all together that much more.
Oh, absolutely! It's a life experience that we'll never get again, can never change. And yeah, I think thinking back to our characters' interactions, the two that immediately come to mind. One is the one where I'm about to give the pregame speech, and the viewer that has seen the movie knows that you're doing that thing with your skates, kind of shuffling, and I like am annoyed and ask you to stop and try to give a pregame speech. But the reality was that I was trying to learn my lines in my head, and you kept doing that, and I was annoyed. And I said something, and then I think you said, like, let's use that.
Yeah, that wasn't acting at all. Yeah, I was just you were doing something and like we're getting ready to shoot and I was just like shuffling my skates like fucking around and you're like, "Can you stop please?" And I was like, What? Well, can we keep that part in the? Can you learn that too, so that that can just be in the movie?
Yeah, that one that always gives me an extra smile when I see it.
Yeah, I love pointing that out. I'm like,
Relatively late ad. I think that wasn't in the original assembled version of the scene, and then we just loved it as a transition. I think that we come right out of a Hubie Guy Fry scene to the skates, and I do love that. And just speaking to your two characters, I love that the two of you are the adults of the team. Like even though it's not a young kid team, like
We wear the socks.
yeah, yeah, that was by design. Y'all both have the socks on, and just like the John takes it too seriously. Proton's a little more of a cut up, but like I do like in my at least in my head canon that like you guys like I feel like if for the Kevins of the world who aren't paying on time, like it's almost like John will sick Proton on them is the way it goes in my head.
I like that.
Which is why Proton can take the piss out of him.
yeah. I feel like I was the only one that could because I was the only one that could talk shit. So that was I earned the right to do that by paying on time and actually showing up. So
Definitely, yeah. I like. It's been nice adding to the lore with these hockey cards we're making because I've got you. You're at every game because of course if you're at the late one. I feel like Proton's at all of them. And yeah, sorry to cut you off, Z, but I do love you two sort of being maybe the mom and dad. If you keep calling him dad, maybe Proton's the mother of the team. Cool mom.
yeah, I'm the cool
He is the
mom.
cool mom. Sucks. Poor John.
Hey, if you're gonna drink, just do it at my house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, the cool mom. But yeah, I mean, you're so fucking good in the movie, and you got. I'll go back in a bit to the other scene I was going to mention, but like, I think Alec, you and me kind of got the brunt of the more dialogue, and I didn't know you super well beforehand. Tyner just knew that you could handle it. And it was really cool to see you more than come through, better than expected.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it was funny too, is because Tyner sent me. I remember he sent me the first version of the script that I saw, and he was like, "Hey, check this out and let me know what you think." And so then my first um, opinion of the script was, "Wow, I have a lot of lines, man." He's like, "Yeah, but you're good for it," and I was like, "Yeah, sure, yeah, no problem." So yeah.
I mean, the thing I think, some people coming into it, you don't think about it. It's like in a play, you have like these pages and pages of lines to remember. But I feel like for us, especially because Tyner didn't do like super intense acting scenes because we knew what we had. You didn't have to memorize that much. It's like, let's just figure out what this scene is going to be. It was more like that was the vibe on set. It was like, okay, here's what's on the paper. How do we translate that in a way that is executable?
Right, right. How do we make it like more real? I guess I think the hardest part I had with lines at all was the locker room scene. Whenever Riley first shows up, I remember us all like while they were setting up the camera and stuff. We all had our lines on our phone that we were looking at and trying to. We just kept repeating them over and over again until we got most of it. So then it
And Alec was like, "Do I have to be here?"
Yeah, yeah. Alex, like, yeah, I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing, so I'm gonna let you guys do whatever it is you're doing. So, yeah,
It was like a real being on a team again scenario, being one of the pie guys for a couple weeks. It was pretty awesome.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, it was a good time, man. It was good.
I was just gonna say, speaking the lines, like it was really hard for me to get going writing dialogue because I just didn't feel like I'd ever done that in any successful way. But Proton's voice was easy. Like I could picture, I would figure out like what needs to be said, but I could so clearly hear the Proton delivery in my head when I was typing it out. And like speaking to like you've got a lot of lines, like yeah, you're good for it. Like you what kind of where this goes back to is I remember you did a video with Daryl LaPlante back in the day. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I can't remember what
I
it was
do.
for.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Um, and I just remember because I just got that's when I was working with the Stingrays. Like it was kind of in my wheelhouse. So like I remember just pretty much watching to see if any tips, for just doing a single person interview kind of a thing. And I just remember how comfortable you were on camera, like that's not a thing everybody has to where they're not their true self on camera too. You might get too far in your head, but I mean, we talk about it all the time, the way you are at Comic Cons, like you're so comfortable in your own skin. And I just it's wild in hindsight to be so sure from the very beginning. I was like, oh yeah, Proton can handle all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, that video was for it was what was it, like an artist spotlight or something like that he had done. And like it was for he worked at a bank, I think is what it was. And so they had like it was like a campaign to get like younger people to open accounts and stuff like that. So they had like this artist profile thing. And so then it was so funny as it was called like the Young and Free is what it was called. And I remember whenever he took it and I was like, so what, I don't even know what this is, like, what is this about? He's like, oh, I'm just going to interview you. And then we'll do some stuff. It's for, it's supposed to be a club for like people 25 and under. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not under 25. And he's like, oh, that doesn't matter. I don't care about that. I was like, oh, well, all right, then I guess I'm 25 then. So, but yeah, that was a really cool thing. And like he did a great job with it. And like, he just pumped it out in no time. Like he was just like, he told me that he was just really excited to edit it. He wanted to get it done. So like, I remember I shot it that evening and I think by like midnight, he had like sent me a link to it and was like, yeah, here it is. I was like, oh, that looks great. So,
I mean, you're in it, of course.
oh, of course. Well, I can't say, you can say that, but I can't say that. So
I want to go backwards a little bit. You guys have a real life meet cute that I think is pretty special. Who wants to tell about when you guys first met?
Well, I'll start just to give you. I love thinking back on my, like, before we really met. You came into the pro. So I worked in the pro shop at the Ice Palace, as seen in the movie, where Sean is sharpening his skates in the title credits. 19. I was 19 and 20 when I worked there, and the ice rink in general, not a lot of hot girls were coming through, especially when I'm that age, 19, 20. It's just like, it's not. I've made up my peace with it. Like, I'm not going to see any babes come in and I get to impress them with how cool I know hockey skates. But I remember this like pretty hot girl comes into the pro shop and I'm just like, oh shit, I got to straighten up my polo, my teal Ice Palace polo, flip my hair. And then you walk in and I'm like, this guy? And then you're so bubbly and sweet and just like direct with your your conversational skills are great, basically. And I'm Mr. Awkward 19-year-old with my bangs in my eyes, and I was convinced you were being an asshole to me. And you're just like, yeah, just I'm looking at some stuff and get back into hockey, and I'm just like, fuck this guy. And then I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, whatever goes by, and then you're like looking at the wall of skates, and I'm helping somebody, and then I just kind of pop in. And I don't even know if I've connected that it's the same guy. I called it an asshole in my head. But yeah, you're just talking about getting back into it. And like, I knew hockey gear at the time. So like I gave you a pretty detailed, like if we had whatever our inventory was, I was all about getting people like, if you pay a little bit more, you're going to get a lot more for your money kind of a thing, but not hard sell the expensive skates. And I don't know, a joke was given back and forth. I don't know. We just kind of locked eyes and we just like, oh shit, like we're goofing off right now. We're cutting up. And then fast forward maybe another week or two, I don't know. And I'm walking on the concourse of at a Stingray event with my parents. It might have been, yeah. And you just come right up to me. You're like, hey, I'm just like the same super personal eye contact, just super bubbly and overwhelmingly cheerful. And I was just like, oh shit, look at that. That's cool. And my parents are like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, see, I work, like I grew up working for my dad. So I'm just like, see, customer service, I've still got it, But that's sort of the starting place. And I just love that first impression of you and then, I don't know, we just started playing pickup a bunch. And it wasn't too long before we joined we did Team Benford, which was I would say a dynasty, but it was really only one season.
yeah, that second season we don't talk about.
the young Genos of their
Yeah,
time
we
too.
were, yeah. And I was the old guy on that team too. Yeah. I was the only guy over 20 or over 25 on that team too. So,
Yep, there we go. That was fun. That was a blast.
yep, I just remember. Yeah, I remember. So I remember going in because I had gone. I think it was like I had taken like 10 years or more off of playing hockey. I hadn't played since I was like 14, and so then I think I had to go to the Ice Palace for like a birthday party or something like that, and the smell hit me, and I was like, oh my god, I miss it. You know, it was like one of those things. It's like that scent that you forget. You know, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get back into it. And then I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to buy some nice skates so that way I can't back out. I can't just like, screw it, you know? So I bought, I think they were the Supreme 175s. You talked me out of the 155s. Yep. And got me into the 75s. And you're like, it's definitely worth it to go up for this. And I was like, okay. So I got those. And then, but yeah, I remember I still remember seeing you at the Rays game. Is I remember walking up those stairs to get onto like the main like corridor or whatever, and you had walked by, and you had your hat was back. It was like this, and like you were running by, and I was like, "Hey, I know that guy." I was like, "That's the guy that sold me my skates." So then you're like, you were like with your parents, yeah. So that's what I remember.
It was a Hardee's hot off the grill hat.
Yeah. So yeah, and then it was love ever since.
And then we found out, yeah, I was taking classes. I was in the same class as your roommate at the time, and like it's. Then we realized we had all this connective tissue. We knew a lot of the same people. I think our ages were just far enough apart that like I didn't run into you at shows because I was a little bit later going to local shows.
Right, right. And I was already out of bands and all that by the time that you had started coming. So
Yeah, that's just wild. It's just fun to. It's funny because before it became the late game, an idea that I was hung up on for the longest time was almost like I don't know if it was going to be one pickup, but like it replaced the game with that 11:30 pickup or that 6:30 pickup that we always went to. That was, I mean, those were a blast, man. Like they always had a good turnout, and like we got into kind of this groove of a very core group was pretty consistent. And I just remember that was a lot of fun.
yeah, yeah, it was super fun. I remember we had an event at Ken's house. You remember that? Ken had just bought a house, and it was the opening weekend of the NHL season. So it was like 3 games. And so we had this plan. It was like a super sleepover. We were gonna have three. We were gonna watch the 3 games, and then we are gonna get up and go to 6:30 a.m. Pickup the next day. That was like a
That
thing.
unlocked a memory. Wow, I forgot about that. It was on
Yeah,
verses,
right.
I'm pretty sure. Oh, what a time, dude.
It
Oh, shout out
was.
to
It
Ken.
was. Yeah. He's still around. He's still around.
Like I said, I ran into his dad shooting nationals.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right.
No, I love that you guys bonded over hockey. That's your story. And it fits in well with the late game and your character in it. And, I think that genuine friendship is something that comes through in this film. You can tell Tyner, getting at the base of these guys and writing them like was a labor of love. So it certainly comes across with Proton, especially.
It's my baby boy.
I mean, I just, that's he's my baby boy. That's why I was there. I, uh, I've said it before, and I think you've even quoted it before. But like, if this was Kevin's movie, I would not have been there. So,
And before we go, just to get a little sappy, like I met Proton at a time where when I was working in the pro shop, I had like, I think, I think I was in between my 2 knee surgeries. So I'd had the one, I didn't know another one was coming, and just like I didn't have a hard upbringing. So like that was sort of, you were hitting me at like a hard time where I was, I don't know, just not feeling good about myself. And, shortcut of the story is one of the reasons you're Proton is you're overwhelmingly positive, and you were just like such a good influence in my life that I think if I don't meet you when I do, I think I become a cynical, shitty person. Honestly, like I had big hopes of where hockey could take me, and like I think realistic hopes too. And when that didn't happen, I was really bitter and I was really depressed and down. And then I see this guy, Proton, just kind of, you took me under your wing a little bit, and just like it really went a long way in changing the way I like saw things. I'm about to tear up here.
Oh man, well thanks, dude. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, that's I mean that's awesome. Yeah, and it's like I feel like if I hadn't met you, if I hadn't made the friendships that through you and all that, um, I probably wouldn't have stuck with it. You know what I mean? Like it's real. Like I mean, just like the movie, it really is fucking hard to like because I'm so far removed from the rink. I had never played at the Ice Palace as an adult. I only played at the Coliseum. So to come into that rink and everyone already knows each other, everyone already has friends, and like for me to show up at this pickup, I remember the first pickup I went to, I was terrified. I was so terrified, and I remember like, because yeah, I am bubbly and I'm trying to be like conversational and stuff, and so like a lot of guys don't like that on the bench, especially at pickup. So I'm like, "Hey guys, how are you?" And they're just like, "Nothing." I'm like, "Oh fuck." Well, maybe this isn't for me, And so then the thing is too is like you're in your own head about it too. Is it's like not only I suck. You know what I mean? Like I haven't played in 10 years, so I'm terrible at it. And then I'm also trying to shoot the shit with you on the bench. Like no one wants to talk to that shitty guy, And I'm just like, I'm that shitty guy. That sucks. So when that, I think going through that, it definitely has opened like whenever we get new guys on our team and stuff like that, I like make a huge effort to like include them into any of our like inside jokes or dumb shit that goes on, and like we had our last game, like I was we had a goalie that was filling in for us, and he let up a lot, and I gave him a lot of shit, and then like I when we were in the locker room, I just wanted to be like, hey man, I'm just busting your balls. I don't want you to like. I don't want to find you hanging in the rafters after this. You're good, right? And he was cool, He was like, yeah, no, you're just busting balls. I was like, okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page there. So I don't want that on my conscience.
Well, as a brief aside on ball busting, you may or may not know, Proton, that I run a Friday morning skate here in Denver. And, we use this Bench app to communicate. And somebody wrote in the chat the other day, can the admin please remove me like from this group or whatever? And then Tyner Watterson chimed in and said, well, now I just had to show up to blow up this guy's phone. And so there's a few back and forths of people being like, haha, we're blowing up your phone. And then I like send a thing that like, okay, I removed you, sorry. And I guess he still had access or whatever. And he comes in and he's like, well, now I'm really glad I've never been to the skate. Like John Watterson had to come in and do X, Y, Z. So, but the reality is Waddy was just ball busting. So shout out for being a fun guy and some guy not being able to take a joke.
Oh man, I gotta give Waddy one more shout out before we move on. And he had, I think the best chirps are like G to PG rated. Like you shouldn't have to get too dirty. I think to like really nail it. And not to say that they're all fair game, but I just think there's an extra art to it. And we beat the team regular season or playoffs, I can't remember, and they were really throwing a stink in the third period. And like I think he sends a stretch pass that leads to a goal that just like increases the lead. And some guy was bitching, and then Waddy just goes by and he goes, I'm gonna butcher it, but it's to the effect of just like, we're better than you and you know it, and that fucking sucks. Like I guess that's not super G rated. I think you just said that, and that sucks, but like it's the delivery of it is what is so, because it's like it's not a chirp, it's like a declarative sentence, and he just it was one of my favorites. So if Waddy's listening, shout out to you, because you're a legend.
We'll bring him on sometime and he can reenact.
Yeah, I mean that's my favorite part of even any men's league is chirping.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of I've said a lot about how positive Proton is, but there's two sides of Proton. There's the sweet version, and then there's sour. And I love that look on your face when you've had enough. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, even I feel like I've seen that Proton. Like you're sweet as an angel, but yeah, sometimes I'm scared. Like, oh no, are we gonna get the other one? That would be really sad if I induce that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm sweet until I'm not, and then like it takes a lot to get me there though, you know. So then, but then once we're there, then we're in it, dude. So it it's gonna take a minute for me to get out of it.
Just like fucking with John in the penalty box with my ad. That's definitely one of my favorites of ours. Just the physical comedy we got to do of the little battle of me trying to get to where she had the phone.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's 100% in my wheelhouse. That is. I mean, that's what I would have done. Is
Well, good thing you're playing you. I like it.
uh, that's that's real life. Is I mean, you the threefer of you referring to John as like dad, this cool dad, all that. Like that's a real Proton bit that I love. Like because you're it's so skillfully deployed. Of like if anyone comes to the bench like mouthing off about we gotta get pucks deep, people aren't fucking passing stuff like that, Proton's like yeah thanks dad. It's just like it's always one of my favorites. So that's something that was in the script the whole time and beautifully executed. And you add a little flair to it because it's not like all scripted like that. You added your own flair to it with like cool dad was in there, but yeah, like I don't know, it was beautiful.
The stepdad line, right?
yeah, cool stepdad. Yeah, there's a,
But yeah, I mean, I loved it. And, we were on ball busting, and now I'm going to switch over to balls specifically. Can we dig into the peen scene, the shirt cock, whatever you want to
sure.
call it? I mean, you're out there
Yeah,
as the shirt cock guy, so we can talk about this.
that is true. That is true. I had a mutual friend of ours. I sent you that screenshot, Z, about Zucker met a mutual acquaintance of ours at a wedding, and I was like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Oh, Z was talking you up." I was like, "Oh, cool. Did he tell you about the movie?" And he's like, "Yeah. My wife is a big hockey fan, but I don't know if I want her to see it yet because I hear that you dropped trow in it." It's like I think we're about to become more than acquaintances. I think we're about to become good friends. So yeah, it was. I feel like I definitely punched that one up. In the script it was supposed to be a butt, and
Yeah, you said we gotta. It's like you gotta let me show my dick, and I was like, oh yeah, of course. Like it wasn't even a question. I mean, it took a little more behind the scenes lobbying to execute, but in terms of yeah, that was gonna be just my butt cheeks. Because with the same effort to be like, yeah, you see a lot of male nudity on a beer league night. So I thought it was gonna be the bit was like, hey, that's my director's cameo is like just my butt cheeks. And I always say my regret is not looking closer at what the frame was so I could have been in there with you a little bit more. But yeah, you absolutely elevate it. That gets a laugh every time. Like not just a laugh, but just like I think it's a good way to prep people for what they're about to what they're about to sign up for is like, oh, this it's a curveball, and then people are I feel like more on board after seeing your junk.
I love that it's early, too.
yeah. I mean, it's right there. And what was so funny? So I still remember. I don't remember when I asked you about it, but maybe it was after a read that we had done over Zoom, and I think there was a read, and I because Tyner and I were like the last people to leave that Zoom room, and I go, "Oh, hey, I got a question for you, man." And he's like, "Yeah." I go, "Do you have anyone like cast for like the butt guy? And if not, can it be me?" And he's like, I mean, I was gonna do a director cameo with it, but I mean, if you want to, it's all yours, bud." And I was like, "Yes." So, and then when we were at the shoot, it was me, Tyner, and Finn. And I was like, "Oh, I think we were about to do." I was like, "Oh, about that butt scene. Um, wouldn't I was like, wouldn't a dick just be that much funnier and more? It's more accurate, you know." And he's like, I remember Finn was so shocked, and he was like, "Proton, you show your dick for this movie?" And I was like, "Oh, Finn, you don't know me at all, man." So I would absolutely do that. So there it is.
Right. I love Finn being almost so pure before that moment, and then like we sullied him just a little bit more, and he's like now he's just part of us. He's one of us now that he's gotten a proton dick bit, you know? Because me and Proton have a history of um some being free and loose with our bottom halves in locker rooms, and back in our heyday at the Ice Palace. So like it only fitting that it's me and you in the scene to begin with too. Yeah, we've it's a good time.
Shout out specifically to the shirt cock.
Well, I had to wear the shirt because I have tattoos, and then I'm walking in on the next scene, so I didn't want you to put two and two together on that. But I remember doing men's league, and I would take my shower and I would purposely leave my pants off until the next team came in, just because I thought it was so funny. Guys will walk in and they're just like, yeah, yeah, it's so fucking funny. And then to just look them like you look them straight in the eyes, it's so funny.
Uh, well executed, especially the towel you couldn't see your head, which was great. And then once you know that it's your dick, and then you pop up immediately, it makes it extra fun.
Was that Tyner called it Twilight Zone? I think is what it was.
Yeah. That's our Twilight Zone moment, and then it's also what I love Rizzo too. He thinks the dick part's funny, but his favorite part after that is like you have this aggressive like point through camera of where the locker room is, like as if it's not 1 foot away too, and like that's something that you can't tell in the scene. You can't figure out the layout, but if you know the Ice Palace, it's just like a little funny spatial joke as well.
Yeah, I think my finger's almost touching the door as I'm pointing. That's so funny.
So did you ever think you'd be a big movie actor?
No, I mean, no. I define big. I guess we were just talking about that scene, so we know you're a lot bigger.
A
Yeah,
cute movie actor.
an average. We'll go with average.
My mom does not remember a lot when it comes to like quotes. Let's put it that way. But she remembers so clearly on the last day we're shooting at the restaurant, and you gave. I always joke that Proton is a very shallow well of material, so it's like his delivery is just flawless. And he's talking to my mom and my aunt, who are in the background of the opening scene, and he's like, "Well, you know what they say: the smaller, the funnier." And ladies, I'm hilarious. And that's like one of the favorite things, like her favorite thing she's ever heard.
I love that. I love that. Well, it's always like awkward because like I've known your mom for forever, so it's like you forget that all these people are going to see that.
Oh man, I've got video of them watching the assembly cut version of that locker room scene, so I'll have to dig that clip up so we can watch their because like they're on board. They don't give a shit. I remember my aunt Jenny. She was just like, I've seen them before. Who cares? It's funny. It's like, oh man, I was trying to like warn her for it, and I just like, oh my god, that's like the best response ever. I really want a commentary track that's just my mom and my aunt watching the movie.
I mean, the peen scene's like the first scene I really saw recorded. Like the one that everyone was pumped to have that. So like everybody had your dick on their phone.
Finn did a really super rough cut of it, like immediately after we shot it, so that he could have it. Like it was. It was so immediate. He's like, nah, we got to cut this. I just remember in that in that little room over there. It was like immediately after we had filmed it. So funny.
Oh man, yeah, big dick energy, if you will, but not. All right, well, we can always chat more movie, but tell me about your art career. I mean, I am a big fan of your art. Like I said before, we really knew each other well. I was already following what you were doing there. Yeah, I mean, you have so much fun stuff out there. So I'd love to just share with our listeners a little bit more.
Yeah, so I travel. I guess it's the country now. I mean, I've gone as far west as Kansas City, but mostly the East Coast. I'm still trying to get in that Denver show, so if you know anybody, let me know. So, um, but yeah, so I travel up and down the East Coast and all over. I do different comic conventions, and so then I do illustration and watercolor stuff, and so it's more like cartoony and happy stuff. And then yeah, so I set up booths at these conventions and yeah, sell stuff, and hopefully people buy it, and then it pays for my trip. So that's usually what I go for. So
I was gonna say, tell me more about the work and like what kind of art you do.
so it is. I don't know I mean, I just draw what I like, I guess. So it's like I do pop culture stuff. And then, they're very like fun and whimsical is what I've been told. And then, so, I just do like a lot of portraits and stuff. And then I also do, yeah, fun and whimsical. That's it. Um, but then I do like portraits, and then like people will reach out to me for like commission work and do like they do family portraits, or they do like Valentine's Day gifts and stuff, or anniversary stuff, which is cool. Yeah, so yeah, but I mainly do watercolor, or I do digital like on Procreate, and then I that's it, I think. And then yeah, so it's Proton Factories if you ever want to come see me.
Protonfactories.com, amazing art and merch available as well.
Yeah, I got pins, I got socks, I got
Does
prints.
hotdogfarts.com still redirect?
Hotdogfarts.com does not. I think I let that lapse. It was so funny story about that is I didn't know what dog farts were, and then I found out, and then I was like, oh, I better go with hot dog farts. So that was a genuine. I didn't know what that was, and then I found out.
All right, protonfactories.com.
We'll just stick with that one. We'll stick with Proton Factories. But yeah, so then I got I have everything on their stickers. No alternate links at all. Nope.
Well, we're excited for you to start doing some late game art too.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I did a poster for Bob's Burgers, and it has like a similar feel for what I want to do for a late game poster, which I think would be really fun. So I start working on that, and then I think that'd be a really fun poster.
The late game is out there in the wild, at least in the US. Have you gotten many responses or feedback from people about the movie, about your performance? Any strangers?
Yeah, so I got recognized for the first time, which is really is weird, and I mean, it was at the rink, but it was still some guy I'd never spoken to before, and he just like we were in the handshake line after the game was over, and I'm pretty sure I'd been chirping that team that whole time. And so for us to handshake, like, oh hey, good game, and the guy like um was like, hey man, dude, that movie was hilarious. You guys were so good in it. And I was like, huh? Oh, yeah, thanks, man. I don't, yeah, awesome. Thanks so much. I don't know. Awesome, And then I've definitely, so my son Archie is in learn to skate classes. So I've definitely seen some like dads that are looking at me, and then where you're like, the fuck is that guy looking at? And then you're like, oh, he's seen the movie. So like, it's one of those weird things like, why is that guy staring at me? Oh, I get it now. And then I got recognized in a restaurant in Park Circle. So it's weird. Yeah.
You're getting way more than I am.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. All my friends though, what's cool is like we were talking about earlier about different circles of friends and stuff, and it's like what I love the most, and I told Tyner this before, but I'll say it again on the record. What I think happened is that Tyner set out, or you guys set out to make a good hockey movie, and I think by accident you made a good movie is what happened. And all my art friends and people that do not give a shit about hockey love the movie, and they think it's so fun and it's great, and it's a buddy movie, and everyone is like, they always like reference Fast Times or Clerks, or it has this real Clerkish feel and everything. And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. That's exactly what they were going for. So it's really cool to see, like, I have art friends that do not give a shit about sports in any capacity that are like, I love this movie. It's so good. And so I think it's really cool to like that it is. I mean, I always knew that it had like the legs to go beyond the hockey community, which I think is great. And so then, yeah, I think it's awesome, and I think we did it, guys. We did it, boys.
And to speak to your stardom, uh, most recent jersey purchase has been a peach. So, and it's like it's from, I think, Washington State, I think, somewhere on the West Coast. So it's not a local.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I had my friend's brother. He was like, he messaged me on Facebook, and he was like, he goes, "Hey, I was going to tell you good job whether we like the movie or not, but we actually really like the movie, and you did a great job in it." And I was like, "Oh, I think we surprised a lot of people by putting out something really good, and I feel like a lot of people thought it was just going to be."
Ourselves included.
Well, that's why. So I never watched any of the cuts. So I purposely waited until the first time I saw the movie was at the screening. And that was on purpose. So I didn't want to see any of the rough cuts or anything like that. I wanted to see the finished product. So I thought it
And
was.
you were at the cast and crew,
Yeah,
right?
it was.
With like the one
Yes,
Dad John.
yeah. That was the first time I saw it.
Good. I'm glad it was that and not the next days was your first time too. Like, because that first one with the cast and crew
Yeah,
was
it
really
was like.
special.
It was really nice, and it was really cool to see everyone again. And then, like, there's all those people that, yeah, you get to, you become like a family for 2 weeks. So it's like really cool to see those people again.
And I know it's come up a little bit, but you still play beer league, right?
I do, yeah. I think Tyler and Grayson are still banned.
I could probably help, but they
don't.
probably like being banned though, because they don't
Yeah,
want
I,
to.
was gonna say, I think they're cool
I honestly
with an
think that's their-
excuse not to play.
Yep. I think that's what it is. No, I think they're still good to go. But yeah, so I still play. I haven't taken a season off since I saw old Tynesy there and he sold me my skates. I haven't taken a season off yet. So I actually have a game tonight, so that's fun. A 9:30, yay!
Early one.
9:30 on a Tuesday, awesome.
Do you come across Kevin in your beer league endeavors?
Not if I can help it. He's well, and the thing is too is he's so flaky. He can't get on a team, so he can only sub for like several other teams, and so that's he basically just hangs around the penalty box and hopes that people don't show up so that he can skate. That's his beer league career.
He was telling me that he subs for 2 different teams and they were playing each other. Like, this was like a month or so ago. So he shows up to the bar and he's like, "Yeah, I'll just see who's short. Like who wants me the most." No one. Both his teams played and neither of them wanted him to play. So he's just hung out at the bar and watched it on the live barn feed.
It's so funny. Both teams are trying to get him to play for the other team.
Oh god, it was so good.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, he's something else. And he'll like sub on my team whenever I'm not there, I guess. I don't know, that's what I've been told. And that's usually why I get text messages that are like, "Dude, you're showing up this week, right?" Please show up so we don't have to call Kevin.
Is there anything else about your experience on the late game, your thoughts on hockey, or anything else in the world that you want to share with the late game audience?
No. No, I don't know. Just go watch it, I guess. I'm trying to get paid, so if you guys could watch it would be great. Yeah, you should rent it several times before purchasing it. I think I think it's the way you're supposed to watch it. Is you're supposed to rent it 3 times and then buy it, I think is how it works. Yeah. No, it's been awesome. I'm so glad that I got to be a part of it, and that it was cool that like I was in since the beginning. I know that we had some guys that couldn't be in it or whatever, and it was just nice to know that like this is my part, this is me, and so then like it's cool that I was a part of it from the whole get go. So I think it's pretty sweet.
I mean, if I could have doubled anyone, I'm glad it was you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what's so funny is I had Tyner was actually in town one day, and he attended one of my men's league games, and one of my teammates was like, "Starling, is that your brother over there?" And I was like, "Oh, no, that's not." We do look a lot alike, so we're both very strikingly handsome. So it works out that he was able to body double for me.
Pasty, doughy boys over here.
With average dongs.
I mean, no one's talking about T-Dog's weed, so
I'm saving it for the sequel.
yeah. Okay, perfect. So something to look forward to.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm glad we finally got to have you on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, excited to do more late game stuff together, go to more places, more watch parties, bring you in on more of this stuff. And yeah, we love you.
Yeah, I love you guys too, man. It's always a good time seeing you guys. Yeah, of course. Hey, I do what I can.